Hello and welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today on day 2 of Autodesk University. I hope everyone's enjoying your time so far. I would love to know where you are joining in from, and I'm going to add to that, what is your favorite session so far from Autodesk University? So Jose, I see from St. Pete, Florida. Danya, awesome, from Knoxville, Tennessee. Trisha Reed, nice to see you in here. Sammy from Pittsburgh. Well, let me slow this down. Everyone's joining so fast, it's rolling through quickly. Let's see, Horatio from Mexico City, awesome to see that. Patricia from Pittsburgh, I think I said that already, did I not? I don't know. Sammy from Pittsburgh, and then Patricia, that's right. There was a couple from Pittsburgh, all right. Brittany from Annapolis, sorry about that, Maryland. Emil from the Netherlands, nice to have you. Alyssa from Boston. Nick from West Michigan. I hope I say this right, I apologize if I don't. Iman from Germany. Garrett from Portland. Hanny from Toronto. Alyssa from Boston. Tom from Minneapolis, Minnesota. In there. Charlie from Boise, Idaho. Michael from Anaheim. Sam from Los Angeles. Jesse from Philly. Awesome. I'm going to scroll through and see. Okay, so we've got Nick, Eric, Jennifer from Calgary. We've got Sai from the Bay Area in California. Heather from Seattle, Washington. Gary from New York. Robert from Omaha. Awesome to see everyone here. I'm not seeing too many people put in what their favorite session is. So type in the Q&A where you're coming from and what was your favorite session so far. So Steve, I love it. You're saying that the AEC keynote was your favorite. Excellent. If you guys didn't watch that, definitely go back and watch that. It was a very good one, I agree. Anthony from Detroit. Carlson, I hope that's how you say your name. Carlson from Calgary. Quasi says his favorite session was the Forge Hackathon. Excellent. Chris from Las Vegas is here. Wade from Las Vegas. We've got a few Vegasers. Mario from Dallas, Texas. Timothy from Asheville, North Carolina. Awesome. Well, I do see the numbers still rising, but I think what I'll do for time's sake is go ahead and jump into some orders of business, and then I will introduce my co-speakers because I'm not the only one speaking today. By the way, I am Michelle Rasmussen. I am the AEC Content Manager here at Autodesk. That means my job is to make sure you have the learning content you need so you can learn the software efficiently and effectively to do your job better. So I just don't want to see you wasting all your time trying to make the software work when you can learn it and use it effectively and be done at the end of the day and get some time in with your family. That's what's important to me. All right, so we are here today to talk about the BIM Manager Community Meetup, a little bit about how we're going to run things today. Back in April or May, you guys voted on who or what topics you would like to see in this meetup, and so we ran some voting in July. Everyone submitted their topics in April, May, June, and then in July we ran a voting session and you voted for the 3 topics that are here today. We're actually going to have 4, so our 4th one is a little bit on the group network, and depending on, I know they're just finishing up another session. It may take them a minute to get into this one, so we're going to give them just a minute to get there. If they don't get here before we need to jump in and get started, then I might save them for the end. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. All right, so just some orders of business. This is our safe harbor statement. I'm not going to read it all the way through with you, but one thing I want to point out is if we happen to make any forward-looking statements whatsoever, please do not make any purchasing decisions based on those statements. We want you to make purchasing decisions based on what is in the software right now, and not what we are trying to get in the software, because that's the key word. We are doing our best to implement everything we can in the software to make it work for you the best way possible, the way that you work. So that is my little spill on our statement. All right, before we begin, your lines are muted. This is just to reduce the background noise because we are recording the session, and a recording to the session will be emailed out to all of the registrants. In fact, we had over 1,300 people register, so unfortunately, we do have a maximum of 1,001 people who can get in. So I'm glad that you guys got in early. You saved your spot, that's perfect. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully we don't have to turn too many away. Those that we do, they'll be able to get that recording. Just because your lines are muted does not mean I don't want you to participate. So the way it'll run, we'll do a 5-minute presentation and then a 5-minute Q&A, another 5-minute presentation, and then another 5-minute Q&A, and keep going through that until all of the presentations are done. But if you'd like to ask questions, there are 2 ways to do that. One, you can add questions to the panel, the Q&A panel at any time, and we will try to get through as many of those as possible. We do have a lot of people in here, so I can't promise that we'll get to everyone. So I apologize for that. Just time is not in our favor sometimes. But the other way to participate and ask questions or give comments is to raise your hand. If you are brave enough to be heard on screen or be seen on screen, definitely raise your hand. I will unmute your line and you will be able to ask your question. So with that, Rachel, you could not have had better timing, perfect timing. I am going to turn the time over to my coworker, Rachel Hartley. She is with the Autodesk Group Network, and she's going to just introduce to you really quickly what that means, what she does. And so, Rachel, I have made you presenter. I'm going to turn the time over to you.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad I'm here with you all today. As I'm getting my screen shared, my name is Rachel Hartley, and I'm the program manager for the new Autodesk Group Network program. So I'm really excited to be here with you all. Happy second day of AAU. I'm sure your guys' schedules are so packed, so thank you for taking the time to be here at this meetup. So I won't take too much time, but I am excited to introduce the Autodesk Group Network program that we built in 2019. It's our first year of having the full program. So I do want to start with launching a poll just to understand if you guys are interested in finding other meetups and user groups to participate in. I know that most of you are probably active attendees to this meetup here that has been going on, but there are other ones out there being led by customers, partners, and Autodesk employees. So Michelle's launching this poll for you all, and I'd love if you could just take some time to get those answers rolling in.
Excellent. And I see votes are coming in pretty quickly. We're already at 32%. I'll leave the poll open for about 60 seconds total. I love that everyone is voting so quickly. I see our numbers are still rising as well. So I'm glad that all of you were able to get in. Again, our maximum is 1,001 people. And so it's good that you got in when you did so that you saved your spot. All right, we're at 70% who have voted. I'll give you 30 more seconds just to give everyone a chance to vote. So hopefully you guys are familiar with this. We've been running this virtual meetup for the last year online, and Rachel and Adam Mentor, a couple other coworkers, started up the group network. So we'll love to see you join all of those different meetings that they have. All right, I'm going to give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 80% of you voted, and let me share out those results. So overwhelmingly, 72% say yes. Yeah, we want to be part of that. So great.
Amazing. Well, lucky for you all, we have a way for you to start finding those new groups and communities to become a part of. So the Autodesk Group Network is our global network of user groups, developer groups, and online groups, where you can continue to connect with others to learn, build relationships, and share your knowledge. We do have both physical and online groups. Of course, with the 2020 and how the year has turned out, most of those physical groups are hosting virtual meetups. So you can connect with local groups in your area and join them online, but you can also become a part of different online groups on Facebook, LinkedIn, Telegram, VK, other different forum profiles. So you can see all of the groups in the Autodesk Group Network. I'll make sure to post a link to our site so you can get there directly in the chat. I'll do that after I finish talking about the network. But really, I want to give you an introduction into why the network was formed and what we intend to do and how we serve out that purpose. So the group network ultimately envisions a world where people connect in community to share knowledge and collaborate across firms and industries to improve the use of design technology and make a better world. I think this definitely aligns with most of our groups in the network. When we built the program, we actually built it with all of our existing user group leaders who had been doing this sometimes for a decade. So we were entering their space. And that's important for us to make sure that we are aligned with why they continue to lead groups and how they're serving their customers and their users. And so that's why the network was formed. And it was to create this global network of user groups and underpin this community with the tools and resources that our group leaders need to manage their user groups, to grow their communities, because they can focus on more value-added activities such as finding speakers or planning those events, getting virtual events set up. We're hoping to give the support necessary to make those things easier. And then third, a really important one is realizing the full potential and power of being connected in a network. So able to connect and collaborate with other leaders. You might have someone leading a BIM user group in San Francisco, one on the East Coast, another in the UK, and one in Asia. So you're able to bridge those connections, not only with like-minded folks in the same product or industry, but are also leading community groups. You can also have help with reaching those personal and professional goals. Having that affiliation, that backing, that credibility by the Autodesk Group Network. We've had many group leaders who have engaged in the user group space that have gotten career promotions or reached expert elite status. And ultimately, it's what you are getting out of it and what your goals and your aims are. And lastly, ultimately adopting new and better ways of working. So I think this is what we're all striving for, why you all are probably here today, to gain something new, gain that knowledge, and bring that back to your workplace. And it's important for us in the group network that we recognize that Autodesk supports without centrally controlling any of our groups in the network. And it's really that aim to make those deeper connections between groups and those users and customers and with Autodesk. So with that, I will want to just launch another poll before I round out my presentation today, and looking and curious to see if you have ever thought about leading your own meetup or online group community. So let us know if you've had that interest. Maybe you haven't, but now you have. So Michelle's launching that poll now for you.
Excellent. I see 44% have already voted. This is a great way to really share your knowledge and gain more knowledge for yourself. I mean, I think I've said it a few times, retention-wise, when you're learning a new skill, if you just go and sit and watch and listen to someone talk about the subject you're learning, you'll only retain, between 20 and 30% of that. But if you add an exercise to it, try it, you'll retain 50 to 75%. And then if you actually teach it, you turn around and you try to teach someone else what you just learned, you will retain 90%. So there's great ways for you to do that. Now, I will mention this, I am going to be sharing with Rachel at the end of this the email addresses to those who have said yes to this poll. So thank you very much for saying yes. And that's just so that she can reach out to you and follow up to see, how involved you want to be and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Only 74% have voted. But it has been over a minute, so let me share the results really quick. There you go.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing, Michelle, and thank you all for voting. It is still a bit freezing on my end, but yeah, there are, dependent on however you answer it, especially those that said yes or you might be interested now. I will be following up. But the great thing about the network is that you can become part of it in multiple capacities. So especially if you are already leading an existing group and you're like, hey, I didn't know that the group network existed. I could have my user group a part of this. Definitely visit our website and add your group to the network to become a part of it, or reach out to learn more information. You can also join a virtual group, those online communities, or find a local group near you, and for the time being, connect with them online. And lastly, for those of you that are interested in becoming a leader and starting your own group, we are here to help. We have guides and people to help at our Autodesk Community Dojo, which is a new immersive learning website with best practice guides to help you get started from starting a group from scratch all the way to successfully running your group over time. So if you are interested, I will be putting our group network site as well as the Community Dojo in the chat for you, and definitely reach out if you are interested. And thank you. That is the end of it. So I appreciate your time and have a great AU week, day 2, and on to the rest of the week.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Rachel. So we did have one question, if you don't mind. Andrew is asking, will the slide deck be available to all attendees? Are you okay with me sharing these slides with everyone?
Yeah, definitely. I'm more than happy. So you can share those slides.
Okay, excellent. Well, we will make sure that they are available afterwards.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, so let me make myself presenter again. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be talking about, again, you guys voted on these topics. The top 3 votes for topics were the ones that we selected. So this first topic is from Beth Evanue, and she is setting up the company family templates. So just really quickly, before I turn the time over to her, Beth Evanue is an Autodesk certified professional and the BIM manager at OHM Advisors. This is an interdisciplinary firm of over 500 people, so she has her hands full, definitely. Her architectural experience includes retail, restaurants, multifamily, mixed-use developments, and more. So I want to go ahead and make Beth our presenter. Okay, Beth, go ahead and share your slides with us. All right, we're seeing that the time is now yours, Beth.
All right, hi everyone. So I'm going to go over how to and why to create your own company family templates. So first I want to tackle why. There are 108 out-of-the-box templates that you can choose from when you go to create a new family. And unless you're supporting every discipline, it's not likely that you're going to need all of these. Also, these have extraneous styles in them, which will bloat the file size a little bit, and they might not be matching your standards. Now, your company templates, you can change your units to be what you want it to be. You can add your own object styles. You can add your shared parameters that you've defined for your company. Any identity data you want standardized across your library. And additional reference plans. If you've been making families for very long, you know that you're more than likely going to need more than the 2 that come out of the box. So what's the benefit of this? You can create consistency across your library and across your offices. If you have multiple people making content, it's going to give them a consistent starting point. And it's going to save you time from doing these tasks every time you start a new family. And then these will be schedulable and uniform across your company, especially if you're putting in any shared parameters to the files. So how do you go about doing that? First, personally, I like to start with a checklist. What are you changing? What are you deleting? What are you adding? You're going to be doing a lot of these probably, so make sure you have a plan. And then you're going to start from the out-of-the-box templates. So these are RFTs, which are family template files. And you're going to start creating your custom families off of these. And for now, these are going to be RFAs, which is just a regular family file. I'd suggest starting with the generic families because you can create these as prototypes, which then can be changed into other family categories. And I would say the majority of the family categories can start as a generic model and get changed into those. Now, there are some out-of-the-box templates that you're going to want to start with instead of starting from a generic template because they have unique functionality or built-in parameters that you're going to want to utilize. Then once you've created all of those customized families, you're going to copy them into a new folder. And you're going to change the extension on all of those. You can do this manually, but I prefer to use a renaming utility. It just makes it a little quicker. And one thing to note about this, though, is once you have an RFT file, you can no longer edit that. That means that you want to keep those original families in your folder as a backup to make sure that you can go back and make changes as you run across things that you want to tweak or add to. And lastly, you want to set your default family template file location to wherever you have these stored. We have them on our network so that it's kind of hidden a little bit in our BIM Manager folder. You might want to put this, depending on the size of your firm, just in with your family library. It depends on how things work in your firm and how much information you want to give to people. And you'll want to do that repath for anyone that's going to be creating content. If you're a small firm, that might be everybody in the firm. If you're a large firm, maybe only some people have the authorization to do that. Whatever works for you, make sure that those people that are making content have all that information. And then some specific ideas for what you might want to do in addition to just your standard templates would be things that have detail items that have specific uses. So line-based detail items, you can do a lot with those. You can add in a bunch of information that maybe down the line you need to create multiples of. And then also door panels, hardware, and frames. Very likely you're going to run into new things of these that you need to create over time. And then a quick tip, if you start with a title block as a generic annotation and then change it to a title block family, you can keep those reference planes and make it a parametric family. And last, I just want to thank Brian Mackey for inspiring this presentation and getting me down the path of making my own family templates. Any questions?
Hey, we do have quite a few people asking for the slide deck. So yes, Beth has already given me permission to share those slides with you. I'll make sure that those slides get added to the link when we send the email with the recording link. So yes, you will be able to get those. Now, Kristen Eastman, I see your hand is raised in the attendee panel. I have unmuted your line. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, I think I did.
Yes, we can hear you. What's your question?
My question is about the setting, the location for the Revit templates, as well as your libraries and the user settings on Revit. The only way I know how to do that is per user. Is there any way you can change this setting when you install Revit, or any other way to do this except for going to every person's computer?
There is a way you can put it into the INI for when you're installing. That has to do with the deployment setup. I don't think I could have time to go into that right now, but I believe you can do that, set it to default path to the user's drive and then go on from there. And especially if it's a network location, it's a lot easier to set that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Kristen. Okay, I am going to open up Danya's line. Danya, nice to have you with us. I've unmuted you. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you have a question or a comment for Beth?
I did not realize my hand was raised.
Oh.
I did have, as I mentioned in an earlier session, there is a family planning class that goes into a lot of details on some more mechanics of setting up your own family templates from last year's AU.
Yes, and I wish I would have saved that link. Do you mind putting that link in either the chat or the Q&A, and I'll make sure I share that with everyone again.
Okay.
Those of you that aren't familiar with Danya, she is an award-winning AU speaker, longtime speaker with AU, and so it's a pleasure to have you with us, Danya.
Thank you. You startled me.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. All right, let's go to, oh boy, I might pronounce this name wrong. Jason, is that how you pronounce your name? Jason Quarry. I've unmuted you. Are you able to unmute?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Good. Do you have a question for Beth?
I do, actually, and maybe other people can chime in. I'm just curious to know if Autodesk has posted a list of built-in parameters and such for those different types of out-of-the-box family templates that kind of tell you, might give you an outline of what is something that you can't change and which some things you can change. Because obviously when you create these templates, like you were saying before, you know, you can't delete some of those parameters. So it'd be really great if Autodesk or some personal person has a list somewhere that they'd be willing to share that I could give to my users that might be, hey, you know, use this one for this type or use this for that type. I start mine all with generic models myself, but other people in the firm may not. So I just didn't know if there was a list from Autodesk that anybody's aware of, or if maybe even Beth's help has done.
Yeah,
Boy,
there.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Beth.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is. I blanking on the website, but there is a website out there that I came across when I was researching this, but even before when I was making them, that covers what has special information in it, parameters that need to be that you would use out of necessity to keep those in the family template. This is a kind of a summary list of those, and a lot of them have to do, like structural columns, for instance, they have a top and a bottom level. You won't get that with just a generic out of the box template. There is a generic 2 level that you could start from that and get the same functionality, but a lot of things like doors or windows, they have a built-in width and height parameter that you can't change and you can't delete, and you're going to want to start with those families. I would have to look for that link to the website that I found that at, though.
Great. And unfortunately, that 5 minutes goes by so quick. We're out of time for question and answers for this part. So I'm going to go ahead and take back rights for just a brief minute and introduce our next presenter. So Michael is going to be presenting next social engineering for the BIM Manager. And so just really quickly, a little bit about Michael. Michael is a BIM manager for a multidisciplinary firm. He has many hobbies, which is great. I think we all in the design industry have a tendency to do a lot of hobbies. I myself do anyway. He's very strong in a strong believer in looking at problems from a different vantage point. And so I love the fact that he's bringing in this social engineering aspect into being a BIM manager. And so, Michael, I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter, and I will let you know when I can see your slides.
Let's see here.
Okay, great. I see your slides. Michael, the time is yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michelle. So, if I can find the advanced button, there we go. Dale Carnegie said, arouse in the other person an eager want. If we approach BIM management as a design challenge to find ways to make our desired BIM practices easy to follow, folks will do that voluntarily. So if you've seen Burn Notice, Ocean's 11, The Mentalist, or been to a Disney theme park or a well laid out airport that you could just sort of follow your way around, or seeing great downtown signage, you're familiar with social engineering. Social engineering is very broadly defined the use of planning in an attempt to influence behavior. Now that can be good or bad. We're looking at it from a good standpoint, from how to encourage people to do things rather than trick them into stuff. Key elements of social engineering are authority, liking, reciprocity, commitment, and scarcity. People tend to follow instructions from people they perceive as having authority, and people tend to do stuff if they like you. The other ones we're going to skip over for the purposes of this talk. So you are an authority. Be likable. That's what we're going to try and get to today. Users came to you for help. Many users, particularly problem users, don't understand in depth what they're asking you about. Even if they know what the quote unquote problem is, they can't fix it. They need your expertise. They know you know how to fix it. So reinforce that authority, but stay likable. Just like a wayfinding engineer knows how to get from A to B, they need to show it to you in an easy manner, not awkward instructions. They need to give you seamless guideposts. So Be likable while you're trying to do that. Be non-threatening. Keep an appropriate social distance, easy these days, but use non-threatening non-verbals if you are in an in-person setting. Try to look at them. Stand in an open, relaxed stance if you're in person. Don't cross your arms. Make eye contact. Be friendly. Smile. And most importantly, use their name. If you use someone's name in the first few seconds of talking with them, they will be more receptive to what you have to say. So one big tip, mirroring. This is a technique that has been scientifically shown to make you more likable and improve the other person's demeanor. Tests with wait staff and salespeople show this really does work. These two statues are very close in position, but not quite the same. If you get into the same position, pay a lot of attention to them. That also helps reinforce to them that you are actually paying attention and care about what they're talking about. Pay attention to them, mimic their posture and position. If they've got their arms crossed in a particular way, cross your arms in the same way. If they're hunched over and shut down, hunch yourself over. Get your neck cricked in that awkward position they've got it in. And then just make some minor adjustments. Sort of sit up slowly, wait for them to follow. Don't boom, sit up, and then be surprised nothing happened. Just adjust, open yourself up, relax your shoulders, look at them, wait for them to follow, and they will generally relax. So the whole point of this is trying to find ways to help users find your solution. We don't want to force them to do it, because as if we're a dictator, they're going to resist. They're not going to want to follow us. But if we can design ways to make it easy for people to follow our standards, looking at those workflow elements, we'll have happy users. Lead your users with design rather than leading them with rules and forcing them to do stuff.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. You know, I had the opportunity after Michael and I went through and practiced this session, I think it was last week when we did this, my daughter was having a really rough time, and I used these mirroring techniques with her, and boy, it really does work. So I'd love to see your questions come in. Anyone have questions for Michael on this social engineering aspect? I see Jape, I see your hand is raised. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line. Are you able to talk with us? I hope I said your name right. Is it Jape or Jap?
Well, Jaap, but the A is a bit difficult for English talking people, so Jape will be fine. I would like to add one thing. If a user comes to you for a problem, give him a quick answer, so he doesn't have to wait long. It doesn't have to be the answer he needs, but let him know you have heard or saw him or read the answer, because that will make him instantly do more and be more recipient to your answer.
Yeah, even just a quick acknowledgement of, I'm in the middle of something, I'm helping another user right now, and I'll get to you shortly, can be a really good thing. The trick is you need to make sure that's not a brush off, and making sure you are paying attention to them. That's part of why mirroring works, is because you are focusing on the other person, and just paying attention to what they're saying. Again, using their name, they notice that, and they'll be happier. And we're all geeks. Excellent. A lot of us are anyways. We're not the most socially graceful folks, and if we start to think about this actively, it can really help.
Excellent. All right, Jane Ruiz, I see your hand is raised. I've unmuted you. Are you able to unmute yourself? Oh, no? Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and remute you then. And Usama Hayes, I've unmuted your line. Usama? I see your line is unmuted, but I still can't hear you. Maybe you've got a double mute on your microphone. Okay, apologize that we weren't able to hear you. Let's go ahead and go to some in the Q&A then. And Oh, okay. So Usama posted the question here. So can you speak a little more about diffusion?
Yeah, at length. Trying to think of where to start there. So a lot of times, someone will be very frustrated with a situation, and finding ways to listen positively and show that you're listening can really help with that. Sometimes a user just needs to vent that something doesn't work. I'm doing some template revision in our office right now, and we have some stuff that just doesn't work. And users will occasionally come up to me and just need to get off their chest that, hey, this doesn't work. I'm like, yep, I know, I'm trying to fix it. It's a bigger project. It's gonna come out in the next template rollout. But rather than just dismissing them and say, I'm gonna fix it, letting them talk through the problem not only helps them feel better about the process and makes them more receptive to other things I'll have to say in the future, but it also gives me feedback about where their pain points are, because since they're not necessarily in depth in all the back end of all the family nesting pain that Beth just talked so eloquently about, them venting about that sort of stuff gives me perspective for what they're trying to do, and then I can try and target my fix more to what they're doing.
So a bit of information gathering with that. I love it. Excellent. And Danya makes the statement, asking probing questions like, explain to me why you find this an issue to be a problem, or can you show me, how does this affect your work? These get to explain what it is to them, and is better just with than just what's the problem. So I love that. I love those probing questions, Danya. Are there other probing questions you ask, Michael?
It really depends situationally. Sometimes it's just as simple as, what are you trying to do? Because if something doesn't work, them telling me that it doesn't work doesn't give me the context to fix it, but it also doesn't necessarily talk through for them what they're trying to accomplish. And sometimes a user saying, just trying to explain, trying to verbalize what exactly it is they're trying to accomplish, they'll come to the solution themselves. And those are some of those magical moments where you can build and reinforce your authority because you've helped them find their own solution that you know works and they know works. So it makes them feel better to come to you for help, as opposed to feeling like they're a burden or troublesome.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I love this next question. For one of those employees who are set in their ways, what advice would you give someone to adapt them to the new standards?
That's a tough one that we all battle with. The best things that I've found are to gently nudge folks in a positive direction. If you give folks a really, really big change and an ultimatum, they're going to fight you. If you give them bits and pieces and show them, not necessarily fully empirically, but reasonably empirically, why a new workflow or a new process is better, they're going to be much more receptive to it. Another way to really help with getting that adoption to work is to make the change very subtle. Redoing detail line styles, renaming them. If you do that all from scratch and have a whole new thing for everybody in the office to learn, everybody's going to hate that. If you base the old practice or base the new practice on the old practice without it being exactly the same, you reuse a naming convention, but fix it, because alphabetizing things doesn't work necessarily. So maybe you need some tweaks to it. But reuse language that is familiar, as opposed to giving something whole cloth. That will make the old guard proverbially a lot more receptive to it if they can see the similarities. You have to be careful with that, because you don't want to hamstring yourself later on by sticking to old practices that don't fit well. But if you can merge them, it can help a lot.
Excellent. Yeah, I would echo that and add to that. If you can show them the return on the investment, what is in it for them? What is the benefit to them on this new standard? If you can show that, they're going to buy in a lot easier. So we're out of time for Q&A for this one. Let's go ahead and jump to the next one. And I'm not going to change presenters on this one, Michael. So since you're the next one up, Michael's going to show us the best practices for work sharing from anywhere. And I'm really excited about this one, the direction he took it. So Michael, the floor is yours.
Thanks again. So let me start off very clearly, really big on the screen there. I'm not the Office IT team. I work heavily with them in resolving glitches that deal with our hardware and software backend stuff that impact how our designers work. But for the technical parts of this, I'm not the right person to ask. I also want to say that BIM 360 is great. It's a really powerful tool. I have lots of peers who absolutely love it and run with it without any problem. We don't use it. Our office pre-COVID had a really robust internal system that worked well for collaboration outside of the office with FTP, and we haven't found the need for BIM 360 yet. So our work sharing from anywhere process is based around FTP, remote desktop protocol, VPN, and virtual machines. Big warning, do not use Revit over VPN. Bad things happen. There are folks who have successfully done it. I'm not going to talk about it. FTP, most of our collaborators, engineers that our office works with are not on BIM 360. So rather than us having to carry entitlements for them, we just use our FTP site. Those who are familiar on BIM 360 still use FTP. They're familiar with it. It works just fine. Remote desktop protocol is really, really accessible. Windows supports RDP connections from Mac, Android, even some smart TVs, other Windows machines. You just need a reasonably basic client machine, a screen and a keyboard and a mouse. It takes about 5 megs up and down on the user side. That's tested. That's not necessarily the bare minimum or the maximum, but you need to account for other stuff that's happening there. So if you've got other users at home who are going to eat up your bandwidth, be mindful of that. And on the host side, you need about 10 megs up and down. That's because there's other traffic happening on those machines. And this works pretty well. I've used this outstate around our metro area. Our users don't have any problems. Outstate Minnesota, no problems. Across the country, I've used this from DC and New York into Minneapolis, St. Paul offices. It's noticeable, but very workable still. So in our office, we have 3 user types for what we're talking about today. We've got in-office workstations. Whether they're BIM heavy or no BIM at all, they just use remote desktop protocol to access their office workstation. Simple, clean, works great. Non-BIM laptop users use a VPN to connect their laptops that are remote with our office file server. So that's for Word, Excel, Bluebeam, all that other stuff. It works very stably as long as you've got a reasonably low latency connection. Our BIM laptop users are where it gets a little bit complicated. Laptop is typically left docked in the office for a lot of our users, and they use RDP to access that laptop. We've given some of those users a secondary machine because they do need to take their laptop mobile, but for the most part, most of our users who were on a laptop because they were out meeting with clients are not out meeting with clients anymore. We do have a few users who are still out meeting with folks and do need to be kept mobile. They, when they need Revit, they're connecting to a virtual machine in office that allows them to use Revit with a local file that is local to our office server, and then use VPN for everything else. So there's some problems with RDP. Out of the box, it does not use the host machine graphics card. If you've got an NVIDIA graphics card that will support QNF drivers, you can turn the GPU on. And if you don't have a graphics card that'll support that, in the group policy editor, it's a little bit buried. You have to do this as a group policy editor. You can fix the, oh, that didn't come through well in the screen size. you can set that so that host GPU is on for any Windows machine. It works quite slick. Other problems related to graphics. Most computers work just fine as the default. Some users, for reasons I haven't figured out, for some client machines, need the color set to high color 16-bit. Revit can get a little bit twitchy, particularly with laptops. And this can happen in office with docked laptops particularly. Windows wants to helpfully resize and scale the layout. That will cause graphics problems with Revit. You have to fix this in person. So you're gonna have to have someone in office able to adjust that for a docked laptop. But changing that display setting will fix that. Other common problems, if a user tests their Wi-Fi at home and they say they've got 20 megs up and down and they're great, but they still can't connect, have them look at crowded Wi-Fi channels at home. They may have other stuff that's there that is getting in the way. There are a whole lot of other remote elements that go into working remotely though. If you've got VoIP phones, make sure those are redirecting to soft phones. My phone rings on my laptop, my desktop at home, my cell phone. It's DEFCON 5 when my phone rings. It's hilarious. Teams, Zoom, Slack, Discord. There's all sorts of different things. I've got a pretty nice gaming headset for noise reduction because it lets me walk around wirelessly. And if I can get this to switch over correctly, we've got a augmented reality headset here that lets us walk around, and we can ship this to a job site and give a virtual tour to a project without having to be on site. So we can work share with workers who are not conveniently located. And that's what I got on that one.
Awesome. I love that you incorporate the customer into your work sharing, working remote and everything, because we can't leave them out. I mean, they are such an integral part of the project. Leaving them out of that coordinated work environment would be a sin. Excellent. Well, we have a ton of questions that came in during this one. So let's start with Lionel asks, what headset model do you use?
For audio, I've got a Corsair RGB Void, I think, is my microphone and headset that I'm wearing right now. The headset we were using, I just did use for the AR there, is a HoloLens 2 with Imagion's app, IMAJION. They've been great to work with. That's actually a beta build on the headset. They're helping us get some QA and punch list sorts of features involved and some other fun stuff.
Okay, excellent.
So that lets me like literally send it to the job site, let the GC put it on, and I can walk around and touch the walls and point at stuff from my computer.
Awesome. And we've had a few people in here say that the Logitech Zone wired headsets are amazing. So
they are.
All right, Julius, I see you have your hand raised in the Q&A or in the attendee panel. So Julius Mitchell, I have unmuted your line. Go ahead and unmute yourself. What question do you have for Michael?
Well, a question that I have for Michael is basically just to give you what we've been doing with the with COVID and having to work from home, and our office is split at a 50-50 split for employees in and out of the office. And we've utilized BIM 360 on some projects, but of course, you know, that adds an additional cost to get licenses and stuff like that. And we've had some success with VPN and some not so successful workflows. And it's no rhyme or reason. Some Revit files work and some don't, and we can't figure out why. But I was just wondering, have you heard of any other cloud solutions of, you know, maybe having a some type of Revit server in the cloud or something that's, where you can kind of get away from Autodesk in there, trying, I hate to say this in this form, but, it seems like we get nickeled and dimed for everything. And so, it's something that important. We feel that there should be other alternatives, especially now, to be able to work on projects remotely.
Yeah, I have not successfully used any other things simply because our current setup works well for us. I will say over VPN is definitely problematic, but over RDP it works a lot better. I do have friends who've been testing out Panazura, I think it's Panazura, and are very happy with that. I have not used it, so I can't speak to it. But I know that it supposedly does support Revit remotely.
Okay, because we talked about RDP, but then that incurs another cost or some way of having a duplicate machine somewhere, and we just don't have those resources to be able to do that. Not everybody has a desktop at home anymore, or their own laptop. Especially if they're like for me, since I got a laptop from work, I don't know when the last time I moved to a new home, and my desktop has been boxed up ever since. So.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a problem. And we initially, when we switched to our office is sort of 100% remote. We're in the office 2 days in 10. And at the initial switch to COVID, we definitely had a little bit of the like, not everybody has a computer at home. What are we doing on this? And one of the real strengths of Remote Desktop Protocol is that it does support a whole lot of client-side machines, and you really only need a keyboard and a mouse and a screen. So if people have a smart TV, that'll work. If they've got, I remote in from my Chromebook. It's pretty accessible. You can get a dirt cheap laptop. Several of our users have one of our old laptops that was set to be retired. It was in the recycle and get rid of bin, and we just handed a couple of those out to folks who really didn't have a computer at home, and they're still trucking along fine. They're not, it's a laptop that's not happy if it's not plugged in, but it works just fine for RDP.
And what did you say the name of that Panzura? Can you spell that?
No, I can't. I think it's Panazura.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no, everyone I know who's on BIM 360 is very happy with it, but we haven't seen the need for it personally yet. Do we have other questions, Michelle? I don't have the.
Here, I'm sitting here talking and I had myself muted. I'm so sorry.
I was trying to look through the things, and I've got a little tiny screen on this for the chat.
Not to worry, not to worry. I thank Julius. Thank you, Julius, for that great question. Just to reiterate, a few people have typed in the Q&A, the spelling for that. It's Panzura. So thank you all for typing that in. It sounds like a lot of you are using it and you're loving it. So I am so glad to hear that. I actually posted in the chat panel as well our latest work from anywhere page that we have developed, and we're trying to come to you where you're at. So we don't expect everyone to go to BIM 360 because we know it's not the solution for everyone. And so I've added some learning content there about some shared views if you're not on BIM 360, so that you can share views and markup views and work collaboratively that way. But as Michael was pointing out, the remote desktop is a great way to do it. And I love that you bring up the solution to use a smart TV if you don't have a laptop at home. So great information there. All right, we have about 5 more minutes. Let's go ahead and unmute Damon Louie. I'm going to try to unmute your line. So Damon, I've unmuted you.
Yeah, I wanted to put a little perspective on our experience with remote desktop. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I work for the city and county of San Francisco, and we have an office of about, I would say, 100, roughly 100 technical users. So, we're either doing CAD or whatnot. And we were able to pivot to our VPN and remote desktop quite easily. But I wanted to mention that your productivity is really dependent on, obviously, your internet connection and your VPN speeds. We find that, if you have, 30 megabits per second download, that you would get a good video feed from your remote desktop. So that's a minimum. We always ask everyone to try to identify where the bottleneck is. And we always ask them to run a test. So if they're meeting that 30 megabit per second minimum, then you should have a good experience. Now, the other issue is whether or not you're actually utilizing your GPU when you're actually remote desktoping. So by default, Windows operating systems other than 10 or earlier than 10, don't utilize the GPU. And that significantly impacts your experience. Now, what we find is that if all our workstations are actually Hewlett-Packard workstations. And if you have a Z workstation machine, you're entitled to their Hewlett-Packard remote graphics sender application. It's also called Z Boost or Z Central. They change the name all the time. But that actually uses it actually utilizes the GPU to push the video feed over to your home or mobile device. So that significantly increases the experience of the fluid motion and everything else. So it reduces the lag time significantly. Now, if you're moving to Windows 10, then that operating system actually utilizes the graphics card. So your experience is almost as good, or if not just as good, as the Hewlett-Packard version.
Windows 10 doesn't always utilize the host side GPU. It theoretically does, but we found that we needed to set the group. We found we had to set the group permissions to get it to act reliably.
That is correct. Yes.
And for Autodesk software to detect the GPU, because if it didn't, when remote desktop, when using RDP and Autodesk software, it would detect that there wasn't a graphics card, and that would cause problems. But once we flipped the group permissions there, the group policy, sorry, it works flawlessly.
Yeah. So that's great. And I just want to mention that, so we've obviously had months of experience with this now. And our management is saying that we're meeting all our productivity deadlines. So, this is an alternative to, if you can get things configured properly, it could really work for you guys.
Yeah, it's good to hear other folks are having success with this. I've got peers who I talk with on a regular basis who are having problems with it. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, because it can work. It's just you got to jump through a couple of hoops.
Yeah, you have to dial, and every user is going to be slightly different with their own machine, so you kind of have to dial it in for them. Well, thank you. I thought that was very informative.
Thanks.
Thank you, Damon, for being brave to speak out loud. So great. All right, I think we just have time for one last question. It's amazing how time flies. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Eric Klafka. I hope Klafka. Eric Klafka, your line is open.
Hi, yeah, that's close enough. So I was just wondering if anybody online has any experience with running virtual desktop environment, specifically Revit, Navisworks, kind of more graphics intensive programs.
Yes, so we have our users who have remote laptops, remote meaning they physically have their laptop out of the office. We don't want them running Revit over VPN. So we have a couple of rendering stations that are configured for those users when they need really punchy graphics. And for basic Revit use, we have a couple of virtual machines. I think theoretically the server will support 8 to 10 simultaneous users. We rarely have more than 2 or 3 on it because those are the users who are using Revit less often. But Revit 17 through 21 seems to be very happy on that virtual machine configuration. As to how that machine's configured, that's not my department, unfortunately.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you all very much for your time. I want to thank Beth and Michael for their time putting these presentations together. I think you did a fabulous job. And so a big round of applause for you guys. And I want to thank everyone who joined. I'm so sorry we did not get to every question. Time just goes so fast in these meetups, but I will take note of them. And for those that really require some responses, I will try to get back to you. And otherwise, I hope you have a fabulous Autodesk University experience. Reach out anytime. Hopefully we'll see you on December 1st when we have our next BIM Manager community meetup virtually. And let's see what else. Oh, last thing, if you are using BIM 360 with Civil 3D, don't miss out on the roundtable that I am moderating for Stacy Morican, which is the one-year post collaboration for Civil 3D. So I hope you have a fabulous day, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.